crisis is getting worse. I'm going to be covering several different articles, all dealing with the ongoing pension crisis we're experiencing here in America and what is to come. And so we're only 4 days into the new year, and already we have news about countries deciding to remove themselves or rethink the dollar, or aka dump the dollar. President Erdogan in Turkey tells his citizens, in order to help the country out, it'd be in your best interest to go under your pillow, grab the dollars, the euros, and gold. And as you tell them, today's title, how the baby boomers will lose their retirement nest egg, I want to share with you a couple thoughts as well as some articles on how the next market correction will be catastrophic for a lot of people.
All right, we are live for a little RTD news update midday stream. And it's been a minute since I've done a live stream, so I figured I would check in. Came across a lot of great articles this morning. I thought I would just share my 2 cents on it and just shine more light onto the narrative of how digital, or solely digital, and the use of the innovative technologies that we've experienced over the last decade due to the cryptocurrency sector is one of the leading drivers for the central bank digital currencies. And then, of course, we got Economist that it's quite obvious what how the rollout would end up actually, being unveiled. But here we are. Here we are today. So let me get into it. So as always, want to be just short and concise. Got 3 or 4 articles I want to share with you, and then get your thoughts on it. And then if you're interested, we can talk about it later on tonight on RTD Live Talk. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on this matter. So as always, for those that are tuning in, if you have not already, make sure you connect with me beneath on these alternative media sources there, some of them anyway, just in case RTD is no longer on YouTube, because at any moment now, you never know what happens. So that being the case, I'll welcome a couple people to the live stream. And as always, if there's any articles or any news stories out there that you guys want to touch on, throw it in the chat, and I definitely will touch on it. But we got Just Us says democracy is soft communism. Restore the American public. Let it roll. We got Spirit King. We got Dave Barry. We got low blood pressure. How's everybody doing? And so he says I have 2 social security numbers. Christopher, how you doing, my friend? So yeah, I want to give it a second before I dive into it. But I remember it was maybe about 2 years ago, and I was just throwing out possible trends of what would come in the future as the whole Fed coin and central bank digital currencies was rolled out. And that was well before it really became a mainstream subject matter proposed by economists and things of that nature. Because my viewpoint was, as this whole digital revolution unfolds, it's only obvious that at some point cash, as it becomes worth less, would become worth less to the people. And therefore, they would need to roll out some type of digital, further digital illusion of wealth. And it would come through a centrally controlled entity, just like the current fiat system we're under now. And so it's just a matter of what would be called, how it would be rolled out. And after, really looking at this for several years now, I'm starting to put some of the dots together, I think. And of course, I'm a critic of just the blockchain technology or cryptography in general, how it's been rolled out and given to us as a carrot dangled in front of the public to excite us. But yet I'm starting to question even more things, and it has to do with Satoshi Nakamoto, that fictitious character that nobody really seems to want to focus on, that entity and who's behind it and whatnot. But I got a couple thoughts I want to share, but I'll get to that later. But as always, for those tuning in, appreciate you taking time to join me. And so, as I mentioned several years ago, my thought would be that they would have to somehow convince the public to accept this, and what better way to do this other than to link it and attach it to your social security number. And at that time, it sounded, far-fetched. But yet now we have a economist, and I'd imagine the article I'm going to share with you in a minute is from someone who's definitely paid to put that together, because he goes through the list of problems in the article and then concludes with a brief paragraph or so as to how the best thing to do to support consumer confidence would be to directly deposit stimulus. And so all that stuff, like, wow, that's nothing new. I've heard that before. I thought I mentioned that several years ago. But anyway, so it doesn't take a degree in economics to come up with that conclusion. But anyway, vicious people, it says, everyone do not do a Android or iPhone updates. Oh, very true. And something that came across my attention yesterday is that if you have an Android, you don't even have to directly update, because I think through Google itself it updates. So I was quite shocked when I saw it myself. But if you go to your settings and go to Google, and if you click on Google and you look somewhere in there, it'll tell you that you have the option already there. So it's just a matter of you cutting it on or not to be notified if, for the whole contact tracing stuff that's all around us. And so it's already pretty much in your phone. So you don't really have to update. So when I saw that in my phone, I was like, oh, okay. But definitely I didn't cut it on. But me knowing how things work, it doesn't have to actually be on for it to be on. All right, so enough of me ranting. I want to get to the primary subject matter of why you guys came here, and we can dive further into it. So I'll put the article in the description, but I'd also appreciate that. I love offering to the channel. And so here's the article that I came across this morning, and it caught my attention because it talks more about digital dollars, and I've been talking about this for several years now, just because as a dollar, the paper dollar and the current digital dollar is basically weaponized and going to be inflated away. They're going to need some way to keep their control over the monetary system by issuing solely digital. So here we have an article here, and it's quite lengthy in nature, but it says the Fed needs to deploy digital dollars to support the recovery. Okay, and then it starts off with the fastest way to get stimulus in the hands of consumers is to credit their bank account. So once again, we have all the bailout stuff being done right now on behalf of the Federal Reserve and in cooperation with the government through all these SPVs, special purpose vehicles. So there's all types of lending windows. So they're bailing out the 1%, basically reassuring no losses to those that are a part of the 1% of the class of society, and then everybody else gets left behind. And so what they're going to look to do is eventually roll out a solely digital style payment method / savings method directly with the Fed. And so here's this article here. I'll save you all the news, basically just reiterating all the current drama we've had for the 90 days. And then it talks about at the very bottom, I'll get to the nuts and bolts of it. It says, ultimately, some of the bonds purchased and loans tendered by the Fed would fail, talking about all the bad so-called assets the Federal Reserve taking on. And then it says here, it would be better to get the Fed, Treasury, and the SBA out of the business of propping up businesses and into boosting consumer demand. It says, let every legal resident open an electronic bank account at the Fed. It says folks could register with their social security numbers, and then deposit monthly payments into the accounts as long as the crisis persists. And so in this article here, short paragraph, he's basically saying the Federal Reserve needs to inject stimulus directly to the public, but then what's interesting is he says monthly. So what is monthly installments of legally counterfeited funds? Universal basic income. So here we have Peter. I don't know the gentleman, but he's an economist and professor at Smith School of Business in Maryland. So when I saw this, first thing came to mind is this gentleman was paid to promote the concepts of direct stimulus from the Fed with bank accounts with the Fed, and not even mention UBI, but monthly income or monthly allowance equates to universal basic income. So that's kind of where they would like to start furthering that narrative of the need for digital dollars. But the digital dollars, the primary reason for those dollars is for you. It's because of all the things he listed on top of that. The worst is yet to come. Times will get tough. They throw out unemployment. They throw out all types of things that are very dire for our nation. But yet they want to come through and save everybody with digital dollars directly deposited on the Fed balance sheet, and it goes directly into your account. And of course, there's so many issues with that. But a part of this, I believe, is that the commercial banks will go through major problems pretty soon. Therefore, people will lose confidence in the banking model, and the last hope of being able to store and save your funds in the banking system will happen to be with the issuer of the currency itself, which happens to be the Fed. And I think if people are dire enough and things in an environment we're in is extremely difficult, I would imagine people would accept that with no problem. And so, once again, I'll share this in the chat here if anybody wants to go find out more for yourself. But it's quite obvious where they're trying to steer us, and just a matter of the timing, because it is coming. It is in the works. And so let me check in via chat. If you got any questions, also just highlight everything in the dollar to stand out. I'll see it. Spirit King, it says, don't quite understand the fascination with Satoshi. Not necessarily, I'm assuming on my part, it's not so much a fascination about that individual. It's just the timing and the fact that the technology introduced through cryptography with the problem that was solved, the double spend problem that was solved, it is revolutionary in nature, no doubt. But the issue I have is that when it comes to, especially with my last guest with Alan, the Bitcoin maximalist. And so people are, as of right now, our financial sector is transitioning and hoping on the Bitcoin blockchain to continue to remain stable and solid, so that institutional money and all the things that's being built around, as far as the businesses and corporations and the trust funds and all that stuff that's been built upon Bitcoin being the anchor of this sector, has me very concerned, because no one really cares about why it was created apart from a white paper, and it was meant to be digital cash. But when it comes to Bitcoin, as people know, they're not really spending it. They're hodling it. So it's just a lot of things that I think people should be concerned with, because especially if you're depending or banking your financial future on something that you have no clue as to who created it, I will be very concerned. And I have my suspicions as to why people don't care, and then also why people should care, because I believe the orchestrators of this current Bitcoin technology happens to be the very same people who created the debt-based monetary system we're in now. But I don't think nobody would be willing to take that on as a possibility, and you guys know who that is. It says, Mike, do you have a public Telegram room? I do have a Telegram room. I'm not too active in it, but I set it up as an alternative. So if you go Rethinking a Dollar, it should be there. And if it's difficult to find, I'll definitely put that out there. But there's a couple people in there, but I got so many social media stuff. It's hard to keep tabs of it all. Satoshi Greenspan, it says BTC. And so here's the thing, BTC, Bitcoin, it will succeed, because that's why it was positioned for us to, that's why it was positioned in this current time frame. So it will succeed, but yet the ultimate benefactors is the people I'll be concerned with. And it has to do with the number one wallet, which holds 255,000 Bitcoins that, once again, is just laying there dormant. And who's the owner of those things? We're going to find out. And I'd imagine when we find out who owns those coins, we won't be too happy. That's just my personal opinion. But anyway, I'm doing too much ranting. And so I'm going to do another video sharing I'm going to lay out the whole little thoughts about Bitcoin, and just to challenge the community, because I think these are talks we got to have. But anyway, keep moving right along. I got two more articles I want to share with you and kind of connect all this together as to why I think this is important. And so here is another article here that I came across in regards to just recent developments on the CBDC. And so from the first article, we have an economist saying that it'll be good for the Fed to direct stimulus directly to the people through an account set up at the Fed accounts, which would cause problems for the commercial banking, which obviously they have to know that, but they don't care, because I'd imagine, anticipate the commercial banking sector as we know it now no longer remaining stable and something people would want to use. So the Fed happens to be right on time. But then how will they do that? Basically, central bank digital currency. And there's a report that came out last week, which this article is related to. But what stood out to me is says regulatory series on cryptocurrencies. BIS shed some light on the evolution of CBDC amid this current situation we're experiencing. And of course, it's always good to use a crisis to cause a crisis to introduce whatever it is you would like to usher out to the world, and eventually things get bad enough, they would accept it. That's just how it's going to go. But here, just what stood out here, it's a long article, but I'll save you all that. But what stood out here, it says central banks likely to play pivotal role in ensuring safety and integrity of the payment system, meaning moving forward. It says digital innovation radically reshapes the provision of payment system. And so the payment system is what this is all about. The petrodollar system is coming to an end. There's an international push to move away from the dollar. Every country is scrambling to get their own CBDC up and running, and the dollar cannot be left behind. So they're going to further the whole CDC, central bank digital currency push. And the Federal Reserve cannot be left behind. They'll probably be the last bank to do it. But here is just more information here. And so this is just stuff that they're really putting out there now, and it's predominantly led by the cryptocurrency sector. But here is the actual report that came out. I'll put this in the chat if anybody wants to thumb through it. It's quite lengthy in nature, but yet it gives a whole structure of how they see this being rolled out on a central bank level. And some of the very things at the top is central banks play a pivotal role. And so I remember to that. It says digital innovation is radically reshaping the provision of payment systems, services. Says central banks are embracing this innovation. Of course they are. Are they surprised that they would be? Says they promote interoperability. Interoperability. Wow, that's never that. Says support competition, innovation, and operate public infrastructures, all essential for easily accessible, low cost, and high quality payment services. So, just more gibberish on how they plan on rolling this out, and you have no say so in it, really, or we don't either. And so I'll put this here in the chat if anybody wanted to thumb through it briefly. But digital revolution has begun, and it's all designed to be labeled as a payment system method for the public. And so from the Federal Reserve standpoint here, it's going to be rolled out as something that will be needed for stimulus sake. But actually, we all know that it's all designed to usher in the next payment system. And the reason I harp on the blockchain and cryptocurrency, those words there, and all the lingo that has been adopted into the central bank digital currency model, is because it's not by coincidence we're at this point talking about this subject matter. And so one of my biggest concerns is that the cryptocurrency sector in general, and I mentioned this before, that's why I've always been skeptical of how it's been rolled out and where it has transitioned to, is because there's not many people out here that's willing to and wanting to talk about the possible cons and the bad side, or the side that remains untouchable. Everyone talks about adoption. Everyone talks about usability and all the things of that nature, and hodling and saving and getting out of the dollar. But yet no one really wants to talk about why we're here at this point, why CBDCs happen to be a primary subject matter that's been introduced to us 10 years after Bitcoin was introduced to the public, and they're using the same lingo as the blockchain technology, crypto, decentralized ledger, all that stuff like that, even though it's not anything like that. But yet it's become easier to accept this type of stuff here, and that really concerns me. And I believe it's all intentional at that. I believe it's, and I wouldn't say a setup, but yet, yeah, I'm just really, really, really concerned. And so let me check back in the chat as always. I want to talk about this more this evening, but this is just stuff just in the mainstream news that they're positioning for us to be groomed into accepting. Let me see here. Is XRP. So XRP, in my opinion, I would be even more concerned, because that's directly a part of the banking system itself. So, yeah, but that's just my opinion. All right, so I'll read a couple things here, and then I'll dial back. Just wanted to check in, share with you these articles here, share my thoughts, and I'll do a more in-depth video about my concerns with where we are with the cryptocurrency sector and how CBDC, or central bank digital currency, resembles all of that in nature and is not by coincidence. And so I'll read through some chats here. Say, okay, Spirit King says, Satoshi combines already existing techniques and technologies just in a new way. It's good work, but not really Einstein level. If he hadn't, somebody else would by now. Very true. Very true, Spirit. And so here's the thing. Like the technology and all that stuff behind it is, it's quite interesting. Like, I'm not a technical guy in nature, but yet definitely it has become a mainstream subject matter for a lot of people. But here's the thing. And this is more so spurred on by an interview that Max Kaiser gave on Valuetainment, when he was asked about Bitcoin. Of course, he's an extremist in nature, but he was talking about it was divine in nature, and it just hearing him more and more really gets me wondering, like, wow, if you're sitting on a large amount of Bitcoin, of course you're going to be one of those people pumping it. But if you're late to the party or never had any interaction with cryptocurrency, it can be very dangerous, because I have family members or whatnot that's curious about it now, well after the fact, and they don't care about who was a founder of it. They just want a piece of the pie, because everybody's profiting, everybody's making money and stuff like that, so they want to get in. I'm thinking, like, wow, that's where we're going now. So it can be very deceptive. People can easily accept central bank digital currencies because they think that it's different than the decentralized technology that operates completely different than the central bank stuff will. So it's going to be very confusing. And the transition, if there's no proper education, a lot of people, millions of people, will be mistakenly fooled into thinking that central bank digital currencies is the same as a blockchain. And that's what problems will come into play, because once you go solely digital, which means cashlessness, then there's no going back. And that's where my concerns that lie as well. Interoperability allows Gmail account to send mail to Yahoo. They are trying to accomplish the same thing in crypto. Metho Nelson, I appreciate you for breaking that word up for me and sharing that insight. As the extra people send the value of gold, breaking news, it all works together. Look up Brad Kimes on YouTube. No offense to anyone, just want to inform people. Well, I appreciate you for sharing that. It says it was created to reset the government's financial debt. Pay ID. I looked into that. I talked about that last week. It says open the phone lines. No, we're going to chit chat tonight because I don't want to be on too long. This is just meant to share a couple articles with you, share my 2 cents, and then we can talk about it further this evening. It says, don't miss out on the rocket ship lift off. No one can stop the New World Order. Very true. And so the New World Order, so all those words there, rocket ship lifting off, New World Order, is exactly where they want us to, what they want to entice us and excite us about. And so cryptocurrencies in general will go through the roof, okay, because they're denominated in a dying currency. And so like right now, okay, here's another article I completely forgot to mention. But here's another article that I think is a testament to the fact when currencies fail, anything that has monetary properties will do well. So here's an article here. It says Zimbabwe has banned all mobile money services as its currency troubles worsen. And so another long story. But in a nutshell, 88% or so of the Zim dollar, which is their new rebranded form of a dollar, is done electronically over their phones. And so as of now, because there's multiple markets and multiple ways of establishing the value of currencies, they got the underground market, they got the government numbers and all that stuff like that. As of now, inflation is through the roof, the currency's crashing, the stock market was taking off because everybody's looking to preserve their purchasing power. And the Zimbabwe government told the digital payment systems to shut down, as well as the stock market to shut down, because the Zimbabwe central bank does not have control over this electronic currency that circulates through the mobile phones there. So it's like an internal war between the central bank and the people there. And of course, the central bank wants the central bank digital currency, but yet they don't have control of their own monetary system here. So this is an example, in my opinion, of when confidence is lost in digits or in currency in general, people turn to the next best thing, which happens to be, of course, Bitcoin is going through the roof in this country here because people want out. But yet, once again, the nominal price of everything else goes up. But yet, in a country where they are short on supplies, the food chain is broken down, poverty's through the roof, being a Bitcoin billionaire in Zimbabwe, can't really do you much good there, because if you can't spend it or enjoy your daily life, Bitcoin to the moon in Zimbabwe is there now, but are they able to really enjoy it? Not the majority. So that's the whole idea of going to the moon. Going to the moon in a second or third world country may not be able to enjoy it much. And I think as everything happens here in the United States of America, I think that there will be a downgrade of how our living standards and quality of life. And so I've always mentioned that my personal opinion is that once the reserve status is challenged successfully and no longer internationally recognized, expect some tough times here. And so that's another thing. What's being a millionaire in a hyperinflationary environment? So that's the stuff that a lot of people don't like to talk about. But anyway, that's enough rant for me tonight. I want to check in and share with you some things, and then we can get back with this tonight. And so I see a lot of people throwing out all types of coins and projects. It says, as BRICS agreement is crumbling with tensions between India and China, USD might have around a little longer because of this. Very true. And so as of now, everyone's plans is thrown off because of this global health scare that, either all governments are in on or they're not in on, and it disrupt plans. So I wouldn't be surprised if, this whole pandemic is a part of disrupting the BRICS momentum as well as the Belt and Road Initiative. So, but yet once again, China and Russia being the biggest holders of gold, already having some deals behind the scenes outside of BRICS. I'd imagine it would slow down their plans, but I still would, the dollar still has a timeline to it. And whether it's slowed down or not, if it's slowed down, it gives us more time to utilize those Federal Reserve notes while we can. But if it's not, international standard of value for the dollar will be done. Comp 400. Yeah, so that boy is probably going to go to 1,000 before it's over with. But anyway, enough of me ranting. I just want to check in, share a couple articles that caught my attention, and then get your thoughts on it. And let's talk about it further this evening on the live stream. And then at that point, I would love to hear you guys call in and share what's on your mind, and we can go from there. But other than that, be blessed, be safe. I will see you guys later. And make sure you guys call in and let me know what's on your mind. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.
Hey there, sorry for this interruption, but I wanted to bring something to your attention. If you've been enjoying this live stream, why don't you partner with me and be a support to the channel via Patreon membership for just a minimum of $5 a month. All you have to do is scroll down beneath this video here, click the Patreon link, then consider donating as little as $5 a month towards the channel. A little bit of crumbs can go a long way, and I appreciate your support. Now, let's get back to this live stream. Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RTD News updates. And as you can tell from today's title, Congress is coming after your